Welcome, Matty. It's a pleasure to have you here today. And I'm very curious to know everything that you're doing into the art world and the art scene. So, first of all, welcome here today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, as I was telling you, like this show is changing a little bit. So, I don't have really specific questions about who you are, but more in general, like what are you doing? What are you accomplishing into the art world? I saw that you are building something recently that is Sunlight Ranch, but no spoiler, just man, completely free to share with me everything that you think is important of what you're doing for the art world, for the creator economy, for the metaverse, and of course how NFTs are bringing all this together.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's safe to say I split my time three ways, kind of equally right now, and they all overlap with those themes you just mentioned. Um, I'm spending a third of my time on building a community of artists. It's a social token powered community. We're mostly orienting our conversation on Discord around accelerating each other's careers, providing each other opportunities, and helping each other succeed, which is a different game than the art world typically plays. The art world creates this kind of like artificial scarcity or this zero sum game mentality, whereas we're trying to shift the narrative to a positive sum game where artists can collaborate and win. And just because one artist is winning doesn't mean another artist has to lose. So that's one of my things that I'm focusing on. The second thing is I'm building an NFT studio. We do some client work, but we also develop our own intellectual property from 10K profile picture projects to one of one kind of more artistic drops. We do it all. We've had some success with that. And then finally, I'm working on building a physical instantiation of an art town in a city called Tucumcari, which is in eastern New Mexico, where I've set up a ranch to host artist residencies. And I'm working with local government and businesses to drive economic development through art and bringing art to this town.
Awesome. So you are building an art town. I never heard something on it. So what are you doing? Tell me more, please. I'm very excited to hear.
I think it first came into my orbit as a possibility when I went to Marfa in Texas and saw what Donald Judd and others had done there. Are you familiar with Marfa?
No.
Marfa is this fascinating place in southwestern Texas. It was an old military town, so there were some military bases, and an artist called Donald Judd moved out there and started building his studio and various installations out in Marfa. And as a result of that, he kind of created like a cottage art town in the middle of nowhere. And so people make a pilgrimage to Marfa. It's way out of the way. It's a few hours out of the way of a main interstate. And they go to check out the Chinati Foundation, various museums. In fact, Art Blocks just opened a gallery in Marfa, I think it was last week, and a whole bunch of crypto folks went down there.
Uh-huh.
So in going to Marfa and seeing that art could transform a town that was otherwise kind of not getting a lot of tourism into a place of cultural significance, I decided I wanted to try to do that myself. My art practice in the past has been focused on headline worthy stunt projects and selfie friendly installations that draw people in and create what I call a physical world viral loop, where if someone shows up, they take a picture, they share it into the metaverse, more people discover it, more people show up in that physical location. I take that term from like application development, where you build viral loops into applications to create like exponential growth. You can do that in the physical world through selfie friendly kind of headline worthy art projects. And so my thesis is that I can bring great quality art to this town, and as a result, drive economic development, create more opportunities for artists to move here. We all know as a result of COVID that people can work remotely. All we need is infrastructure, space, and time. And so the vision is to create the infrastructure and provide artists the space and time to do their work out in the middle of the desert.
Super cool. Man, to be honest, like I don't know if like it's my ego or something, but like few months ago, I started to think, oh, I would like to have a town of mine, but not just for me, like to share with different people, because I really believe one thing in my life, that is, game should never end. I think that we live in the video game era. Like I think that everything that we've got around us can be gamificated, and I apply this to schools because I worked in the education. I apply this to technology, and now I'm gonna apply it to community building into the metaverse. So I really envision a town that I don't know which name will be, but a town where like all the gamers of the world came together into there and they play to earn for real. A town of gamers where they all play and they
with the
built
change
this.
of the
Oh, what was there? Oh, there was some kind of sorry, and we built all together like a town of gamers that can give freedom of, let's say, of gaming to the world. So why you are focusing on artists? Why? Because me personally, I think that gamers, artists, they are the ones that are bringing our culture on their shoulders. So why are you focusing on artists and building this community? And you are so keen to do this that you're building a town around. So why?
Sure. Well, are you familiar with Balaji and his theory on how we're building kind of like
Absolutely.
cities in the cloud right now, and we're
Yes.
like LARPing government in the cloud, and we're gathering people who share value sets and can share resources in the cloud in a global distributed fashion. And eventually, if you create a large enough community and an organizational body, you can actually take over physical space. So I've spent some years actually building that, let's call it town in the cloud, which is my art community, which is a bunch of artists aligned around a value system, which is we can all win, we can all make art, we can all live as artists, and we can all be nice to each other. And so as we build that in the cloud, the natural progression is to take that value set and that economy we're building in the cloud and bring it into physical space. And so in thinking about some of the characteristics that my community in particular need access to, it's high volume of foot traffic, because the only way art spreads is it gets seen. And right now, like for example, graffiti artists used to spray paint trains in New York because the trains would go between all five boroughs,
Yeah.
5 or 6 boroughs, and that's how you would get seen. Nowadays, people post on Instagram, and so the whole world can see their art. Now that those channels like Instagram are being, let's say, they're being a little bit controlled by the algorithms. We need to find new distribution mechanisms. And so I picked this particular town in this particular area because it's on Route 66. It's a thoroughfare across America, and it will provide a lot of eyeballs to artists who are producing work in this particular place. Why I chose artists? If you look at many, well, first of all, I love art. I think art is important. The more time I spend with art, the more of an appreciation I have for art. I think that there's a lot of folks in the crypto sphere that just started to realize that art is cool because of NFTs. And I think that that's fantastic. That's going to
Yeah.
bring more collectors into the art world, perhaps not for traditional art world stuff, but it's going to bring more support into the art world. The reason I value art is because art is a universal communication language through which the artist can translate their identity, their politics, their life, their history, their story into objects that all spectrums of humans can experience collectively and say, okay, I now can step inside of this person's shoes. So it's this universal communication language. A mathematician and a philosopher can look at an art object and relate to each other through that art object. So art is a very powerful storytelling medium, and storytelling and myth is how everything is constructed. Our entire universe is constructed based on storytelling and myth. So if you bring together a community of storytellers and creators of myth who are all helping each other succeed, then you build a strong cultural force that can actually be more powerful than, let's say, a government, or more powerful than a bank, or more powerful than an army, because we can use the power of myth and storytelling to create real world change in the minds of people all over the planet. And so that's like a kind of like a extracted, like a 30,000 foot view of why art. But the second is like artists are just fun to be around. They're all like a little wacky and weird, and it's the community of people that I like to interact with. I like to keep things interesting.
You
Now I
never
can
get bored with artists, let's say.
you could some artists are very boring, but I don't pay much attention to their work. Um, so I think those are some of the guiding principles. Is art is a good mechanism to storytell and create myth. Myth is more powerful than like hard power. Like myth is soft power, and it's like it's what shaped all of civilization to today. And so nurturing artists and identifying talented artists and supporting them feels like something good to do on a daily basis. I'd rather be doing that than selling, more t-shirts to somebody, or trading derivatives on the stock market with my time.
Awesome, absolutely awesome. It's incredible, like how the humankind is evolving. Like you are someone that is building a town. I saw also, I think, Young Thug is doing it. Kanye West. So, like, look where are we living. Like people are having so much financial freedom thanks to the crypto world, the art world, that it's kind of normal that now we create our towns. That's amazing. And so you said that you built a kind of digital town before. You say you're building a physical one, but there is a third option that I would like to mention that is in Somnium Space, and this is the reason why I joined this team. It is I'm very excited because it's a place where everything that we are doing into the digital virtual world mixed with blockchain can come together. So you know that you've got the possibility of building a town, or at least a twin of of your physical town into some virtual places, virtual worlds like Somnium Space. And would you like to do something like this? Are you interested? You think in having a kind of structure, a real building also into the virtual world?
Yes, so I've had gallery shows in crypto voxels with the whale community. They're like a community of NFT collectors and a DAO of NFT collectors. I've spent a lot of time in crypto voxels in Decentraland. It's super cool. I think that that's like another component. Like in theory, these towns don't need to like. I'm building a town, but I imagine it as a network of towns of physical space, because we in Meat Space have to live somewhere. But I don't expect everyone to move to this town. It's just where I happen to be landing, and it serves my needs. But the metaverse and building governance structures and meeting halls and places to display artwork in the metaverse is going to become an integral component of allowing these towns to scale into metropolises around the globe.
Awesome, awesome.
Like
So
I'm not planning on building bigger buildings here. I'm not planning on growing the population here. I'm planning on living here, inviting some people to come sell their physical world art. But I'm still jacked into the internet in order to be able to access the broader global community of folks that we're uh, building oriented around our value system.
yeah, absolutely. And in your opinion, like, which are the pros of the cons of having a virtual town versus a physical town in nowadays in where you're living? So you said you will have both. You will have both for different purposes. If yes, which one for what? Which one?
Yeah, I think like NFTs are a good example of why this one of the strengths of digital assets. So, for example, if you own a Lamborghini in my little town in eastern New Mexico, everyone in town knows you own a Lamborghini, but that's only like 4,000 people. But if you own a CryptoPunk, everybody in the internet can know that you own a CryptoPunk. So there's advantages in that you can create scale for your flexes. Atoms are heavier than pixels, and therefore the advantage of building in digital space is that you can build things a lot less expensively. They can scale almost infinitely to everyone with a computer connection. But you can't neglect the fact that you need sustenance, you need safety, you need all of the things on Maslow's hierarchy of needs in order
Yeah.
to be a functioning human.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there's necessarily just a world where you only live in atom space, or a world where you only live in pixel space, like Ready Player One. It's more of like finding a balance. And
Exactly.
the benefit of the pixel space or the metaverse is that it's infinitely scalable, and you can share ideas to everyone in the world with the click of a button, rather than requiring them drive by your billboard or come visit your gallery space in physical space. But there's still something special about physical space that I think that I'd like to pay attention to as an artist.
Yes, exactly. And I think that in terms of virtual, like what are the pros of virtual, that it's quicker to build. Like for example, there are the builders that really let you build quicker a model, and it's quicker to build communities, quicker to build connections. I think we can, yes, maybe.
I will caveat that though. It's maybe quicker to build communities, but depth of community and like aligning around value structure, sometimes that takes an in-person
Oh,
conversation.
absolutely, absolutely agree. Like for example, in order to be into Somnium, like I just went into Prague for 1 week, and I've been in an amazing event, an NFT castle in Prague. So, and that was where connection happened. Like people from all over the world. That first time, like I always saw them on Twitter around, and the first time they were there, like I can touch her, I can feel them, and in just 5 minutes it's not awkward to go networking. Let's say how maybe it can be on Twitter. You just go and say hi. No, if you just go and say hi, you say, "Who are you? What do you want?" Like, but if you are in physical and you are in the same place, of course, it's better for any kind of connection. So, I'm very curious to see how you're gonna to join physical and digital town. You seem like you know all the toolkits necessary to have it, and I'm wondering if you know about what also Kanye West is doing. Like I know that he's rebuilding cities. Like he's first of all, like he's the, I know that you are the most famous artist, but he's the most influential artist, like of all time so far. So what he's doing is that he heard a certain influence from art, from making probably the best music that we've ever listened in our lives so far, and he's redistributing this richness into building cities, building new churches into in the US. So he's building these communities, and man, I feel I feel lucky that I'm speaking with you right now, because someone connected us in the sense that it doesn't happen every day to meet someone that is building a town. So how do you, how, I don't know, did you want to add more about Kanye? Like tell me something that maybe I don't know, because maybe you also meet him, you work with him, I don't know, like tell me.
Yeah. Kanye is fantastic. I mean, he's got a great vision, and I am familiar with his plans up in Wyoming, and kind of how he's thinking about building his Yeezy factory out of Wyoming and sourcing local talent and local materials. And he does make great music. I wouldn't say it's the best music of all time, because I mean, you'd have some people that say Mozart might be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, uh, it just depends on your taste, I
Yeah, of
suppose.
course.
But I think the macro trend towards building towns is just a realization that you don't need to be in one place to do something. Like Silicon Valley oriented around the Bay Area for a really long time, and it's only recently that people started to figure out you don't need to be in Silicon Valley to build a startup. It's about a value system. It's about a set of instructions, or like a narrative. It's about a particular style of learning and education. And if you can package all those things up in a concise way, you can build towns in you can build industries, I should say, in any place you want. And an industry is largely formulated by the businesses, and the businesses are largely driven by culture and values with some kind of economic development incentive tied to them. So if we're being really abstract about this, we as a species are realizing that our physical proximity to each other doesn't matter so much as do our values, our vision, our desired life quality, that kind of thing. And so we're going to see more startups that don't start in Silicon Valley. We're going to see more art that is created that's culturally significant, that doesn't come out of New York and Los Angeles. Or we're going to see fashion that doesn't have to come out of Paris. We're going to start to see these. We're going to see these or Milan. We're going to see these industries kind of unbundled and distributed across the globe, which is going to actually, in theory, raise the level of quality of production. So art production is going to get better. Fashion's going to get better. Music's going to get better. Startups are going to get better because we're not forcing people into the constraint that is physical space in order to collaborate.
Definitely. While you're thinking, like I'm kind of thinking in layers, and I'm seeing that there is a common denominator here that is the next 10 years, 20 years, what everything will be of our society, everything that is education, progress. Like I think that it will come up from a mixture of art pure technology. Like, okay, culture and art always influenced our world, but maybe not directly, like it was indirectly. But now that we gave a really, we are enabled now to transform art into a business. Like right now, we've got more tools that can help us. So, do you agree with that? Like, do you think that the next the next step of humanity will come from this marriage of art plus technology?
I think that might be an oversimplification. We have to also build systems and governance, and it's about like organizing people. It's about telling beautiful stories through art, and it's about organizing through technology. But it's also about just like making sure that we don't leave too many people behind. Because the biggest problem with technology right now is it's automating a lot of people out of purpose. The folks who have jobs now might not have jobs in a few years when robots take over, and it's like how do we give them purpose, and how do we find a way for everyone to live in harmony on this planet? I mean, one of the reasons I'm living in the middle of nowhere is access to resources. Like I'm going to be able to have a well and solar power and radical self-reliance. Like I don't want to be in a big city and be reliant on the grid in order to be able to sustain my lifestyle. And those are real considerations that people are making as they start to see maybe these fragile systems kind of implode. Nassim Taleb is an author I follow quite rigorously, and society is becoming more and more fragile. And we as individuals have to build anti-fragility into our lifestyles in order to be able to survive the without being too dismal, the coming collapse. Societies collapse all the time. So I'm just thinking, a decade or two out, like, okay, so where do I want to be, and how do I want to create a more anti-fragile existence for myself?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that I'll give you my thoughts. Like, I think that our fragility can be fixed if we really are able to join all the tools that we've got together now into the digital world to create this kind of new prosperity of economy. Like I'm talking about creator economy. Like now I'm start to really be focused on that. Like I saw that the average American like spend almost 3.5 hours per day on social media. That's bad if you don't know, let's say, how to monetize that. This is why I like to make this kind of interview with you, that you are enable creators to do that. Because if we are all creators, like as I heard once, like we all have a $1 million idea, let's say, in our mind that we can create in different ways. So if we are unable to create these tools for anyone to monetize from what you are doing instantly, that could be very interesting to outperform, to bring more people to outperform and to guarantee this financial stability more. What do you think about that? Or if you have other solutions?
Yeah, it's kind of like we're going back to the future. Like we're moving back towards this mentality of having small towns,
Yeah,
locally sourced stuff.
yeah.
We're moving back to
Communities are
artisan
becoming smaller.
communities are becoming smaller, trades are becoming more important, having tangible skill sets are becoming more important. So, um, and this is all stuff that we've already been through as a species. The Industrial Revolution accelerated, our global domestic production, but in a lot of ways, made our society more fragile. And so we're going to start to see a transition back towards um, like smaller towns filled with artisans that are capable of surviving. Like it's almost like Burning Man. I don't know if you've ever been to Burning
Yeah.
Man, but
No,
I've,
I've
I've been
never
a bunch
been,
of times.
but I wish I had.
But aside from all the partying and stuff, what it teaches you is radical self-reliance, to build a tribe of people that can take care of each other, to plan for the inevitable, which is that you're going to need food and water. Um, I think digital technologies are going to enable us to solve these problems, but without some pain along the way. And I'm trying to mitigate as much of that pain as possible for me and the people I surround myself with.
I totally agree. Like it's very interesting. Like to see how history is removing itself into these like smaller communities. Okay, man. Like I got your point of view, and thanks for your time. And I really want to after this to keep building on this concept of small communities because I'm now exploring how these small communities around the world can create smaller communities in loco but a bigger community virtual. So I think this is what is gonna happen. So I like this idea of using this show, this anything, this conversation that we're doing as a first step to build this kind of communities. And what I'm trying to do is also inviting anyone that is part of this, that is listening, that will listen us to join this NFT world. Let's say that maybe it's the beginning of how all this show started, but going into a serious matter of community or tech or anything that you want to do, it's time to contribute because creator economy is for anyone and it's built for anyone. So that's my call to action to you and to anyone that is listening right us now.
Cool. Well, thank you for having me on, and I wish you best of luck with your mission and vision.
Oh, a pleasure, and you too, man. So see you around in the metaverse or in your town soon.
Yeah.
Bye, man.